I had heard the stories, the whispers that echoed through the hallways of the city. They spoke of apartment 404, the cursed dwelling nestled on the 4th floor of an old building. "Don't go there after dark," they warned, their voices dripping with a mixture of fear and fascination. But I was never one to believe in such tales, dismissing them as the products of overactive imaginations. That was until that fateful night when curiosity led me to the threshold of apartment 404. The moon hung low in the sky as I stood before the aging building. Its crumbling facade gave the impression of being frozen in time, a relic from another era. The air was thick with tension and my heart raced as I inserted the rusty key into the lock. The door creaked open, revealing a dimly lit hallway that seemed to stretch into infinity. The walls were adorned with faded wallpaper, and the carpets whispered softly beneath my every step. Inside the apartment, the atmosphere was heavy, suffused with a chilling stillness. The air was thick with the scent of decay, as if the very walls exhaled a mournful breath. Dust motes danced in the faint moonlight filtering through the tattered curtains, casting eerie silhouettes on the walls. I hesitated, my fingers brushing against the worn edges of an old photograph on a dusty table. It depicted a smiling couple, their eyes betraying a sense of unspoken sorrow. As I moved further into the apartment, a sense of unease settled deep within me. It was as if I was not alone, as if unseen eyes were watching my every move. I forced myself to shake off the sensation, attributing it to the macabre reputation of the place. I wandered into the bedroom, drawn by a faint rustling sound. The shadows seemed to gather, coalescing into twisted shapes that danced along the walls. And then I heard it, the soft, haunting melody of a music box. Its delicate tune wove through the air, a mournful lullaby that seemed to beckon me closer. My heart pounded in my chest as I traced the sound to a corner of the room. There, on an old dresser, the music box rested, its lid cracked and faded. With trembling fingers, I wound the delicate mechanism, releasing the haunting notes into the room. Suddenly, a chill swept through the air, and the room seemed to come alive with a spectral presence. Wisps of darkness materialized before me, taking on the forms of ethereal figures. Their eyes were hollow, their faces twisted with anguish. I stumbled back in horror, my breath catching in my throat. The figures moved closer, their whispers like icy tendrils brushing against my skin. "Why have you come?" one of them whispered, its voice a mixture of sadness and anger. "This is our domain, a place of forgotten memories and shattered dreams." I opened my mouth to speak, but my words caught in my throat. The figures drew closer, their presence suffocating. Panic surged within me, and I turned to flee, but the door slammed shut with a deafening bang. I was trapped, surrounded by the mournful echoes of the past. The figures closed in, their forms merging with the shadows as they reached out for me. Their touch was like ice, sending shivers down my spine. Their whispers grew louder, a cacophony of anguished voices that filled the room. Images flashed before my eyes, scenes of heartbreak and despair, each one a fragment of the lives that had unraveled within these walls. Tears streamed down my face as I sank to the ground, overwhelmed by the weight of the sorrow that clung to this place. The figures loomed over me, their faces contorted with pain. And then, a single figure stepped forward, its eyes filled with a longing so intense it felt like a physical force. "We seek release," it pleaded, its voice a mere breath. "Help us find peace, and you shall be free from this place." With a trembling hand, I reached for the music box, its melody still haunting the air. As I opened it once more, the room seemed to tremble, and a blinding light engulfed everything. The figures wailed, their cries mingling with the fading notes of the music box. And then, as suddenly as it had begun, it was over. I found myself back in the moonlit room, the apartment now still and silent. The air was no longer heavy, the shadows no longer alive with spectral forms. I stumbled to my feet, my heart pounding, and made my way to the door. As I stepped into the hallway, a sense of relief washed over me. The curse had been broken, the restless spirits finally finding their peace. As I walked away from apartment 404, I couldn't help but glance back one last time. The building seemed to sigh as if releasing a long-held breath. The city slept on, unaware of the horrors that had unfolded within its midst. From that night on, I never dismissed the stories of the haunted apartment again. I had walked through the veil between the living and the dead, and the memory of those anguished faces would forever be etched into my mind. Ghosts were a laughable notion to me, until I entered apartment 13B. The unit exuded an understated charm in an ancient edifice pulsating with stories and hushed whispers, the sort that only emerges from decades of concealed secrets. Though my superstitious friends' warnings seemed jests, I now realized their intent was to shield me from the terrors concealed within those walls. A moonlit night ushered in the first inexplicable event shortly after my arrival. Semi-conscious in bed, I heard it. Faint scratching from the corner. Heart racing, I sat up, straining to pierce the darkness. Yet nothing emerged, only the air conditioning's soft drone. Believing it the product of imagination, I resumed repose, suppressing the discomfort festering in my gut. Abruptly, I sensed it, a frigid gust tussling my hair, despite sealed windows. Clutching covers to my chin, thoughts of intruders invaded my mind. Quickly, the cold breath subsided, leaving an eerie silence. Gazing at the ceiling, my pulse still frantic, exhaustion eventually steered me into restless slumber. Successive nights unveiled more oddities. Items inexplicably shifted places. Shadowy figures tantalized peripheries before vanishing upon a head turn. Stress and fatigue, I convinced myself, orchestrated these illusions. Then came the night of undeniable truth. Rain pounded windows like furious fists. My body nestled in bed, seeking solace in the tempest cacophony. Abruptly, lights flickered and plunged the room into darkness. Heart pounding, I groped for my phone, its faint light guiding me. There it was. A soft, mournful whisper emanating from all directions. Breath seized, I scanned the room, tracing the elusive sound's origin. And there she was. A spectral woman, scarcely discernible in the dimness. Stationed by the window, her gaze fixated on the storm beyond. Her sorrow, her yearning, permeated the room. Words eluded me, strangled whispers my sole articulation. "Who are you?" I managed, voice weak. Slowly, she pivoted, vacant eyes locking onto mine. Devoid yet brimming with agony, her voice resonated from an abyss. "Help me!" Chills cascaded down my spine as her words reverberated. Terror should have enveloped me, yet compassion engulfed instead. A tormented soul trapped, beseeching deliverance. Power surged, drowning the room in light. She'd vanished when I faced the window. I searched, heart racing, but she'd evaporated. That night transmuted me. The supernatural's undeniable grip tightened. Delving into the building's past, records disclosed a bygone tragedy. Apartment 13B's occupant perished due to a lover's quarrel gone awry. This knowledge spurred my quest for her peace. I consulted mediums, plumbed ancient rituals, contacted paranormal experts. All faltered. The hauntings intensified, her cries escalating each night. Then, a calm washed over me one dim eve, a presence palpable. The air stilled and she was near. Eyes closed, inhaling deeply, I murmured, "I want to help you." Silence stretched. Her voice, no longer mournful but soft, free of anguish, echoed softly in my mind. "Thank you." Subsequently, the hauntings waned. Whispers faded, shadows receded. She'd found her peace at last. I eventually departed 13B, not out of fear but respect for lingering memories. I pondered whether she'd crossed over, found the release she sought. My compassion, my willingness to listen, did it guide her? Whether haunted or not, the apartment imparted wisdom. Beyond appearances lies complexity. Unexplainable enigmas often carry profound significance.